So if we are starting with an introduction to permaculture, we're going to start working with a definition. But as you go through the explanations of the courses and the content, and you kind of develop your own iterations, the explanation of permaculture will kind of get deeper and more profound. So what we like to do is really start with a very concise definition of what permaculture is, because I'm sure many of you, if somebody asks you, why are you taking this course or what is permaculture, you end up in this kind of discussion, and half an hour later, you still haven't really clarified what permaculture is. So this is the first and foremost thing to take into account, is that permaculture is about observing nature and designing solutions. So it is a observation-based design science that is utilized to develop solutions to the problems that we face as a human society. Now, already there we've lost most people. So we can move away from even this term permaculture. Permaculture has now become a trendy term. It's a term that doesn't really explain what it means. And so I very often will use the term ecological design, or regenerative design is now quite popular. It's still less clear than what ecological design is, but regenerative ecological design definitely works to get a clear message of what we are doing. We are designing solutions that are based in ecology and that will regenerate the health of businesses, ecosystems, farms, or wherever we apply this design science. So the strict definition that we're going to start with is that permaculture is a design science that is rooted in the observation of nature. That's it, that's all. We don't need to go any further than that to get started. When people are interested beyond that, well, then we can explain that it is a ethical system that is rooted in the ethics that were deduced by Bill's observation of different cultures around the world over 25 years. But really, in the beginning, we can just start with it as an ecological design science that is rooted in the observation of nature. What differs from permaculture and biomimicry, for instance, because biomimicry is also a design science that is rooted in the observation of patterns of nature, there's one thing that really makes the two stand out, and that is the ethics of permaculture. And so the three ethics of permaculture are ethics that Bill had observed over 25 years of studying different groups, from the Bintagara to the Aborigines to the Inca to the Maya to the First Nations of North America and Turtle Island, and many other places around the world. And there was some commonalities that began to arise when looking at these different cultures from different corners of the earth that had very similar ways of life. And the three common ethics that he kind of synthesized down as something that he found to be common in all of these different cultures around the world was the first, that is earth care, the second, that is people care, and the third, that is fair share, or many different ways of saying fair share, but is the redistribution of surplus and the limits to overconsumption or inefficient use of resource in a system. So fair share is a little easier way to say that. So with the definition of permaculture, we have at least a starting point, but it's important to grasp fully that permaculture is not something new. It was not invented by Bill Mollison or David Holmgren. This is a pattern that was observed in how indigenous populations and people who live close to the land, not only ancient civilizations, can observe the problems that they face, observe the constraints of nature, and learn to design solutions that fit and function with the patterns of the ecosystem that they are a part of. That's all it is. In a way, we are articulating with permaculture and the specific curriculum a way of understanding these ecosystems so that we can use them as a tool set as designers to create solutions for whatever the problem is that we face. And many of the things that we think are permaculture, like we think that hugelkultur is permaculture. No, well, hugelkultur was invented by Sepp Holzer, who is a permaculturalist. He hasn't actually followed a 14-chapter curriculum, so he has his own perspective on permaculture, right? He's not a certified permaculturalist. He's an experiential permaculturalist.